Welcome to Risk and Resilience. On today's special edition episode, we have a very special guest, Kristin and Allison. We talk about her involvement with the St. Baldricks Foundation, her working in different parts of the hospital, to ultimately landing her dream job as a board-certified pediatric nurse practitioner who specializes in blood and cancer disorders at Christus Children's in San Antonio. And she just happens to be my cousin. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to Risk and Resilience. Today we have my cousin, Kristin Allison in. Kristin, say hi.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today. I know you have a busy schedule. We start off every episode the same. We want to know what you wanted to be when you were growing up and where it went wrong. Or if it did went wrong. Mine went wrong.
I think I always knew I wanted to work in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
That was just always an interest of mine, taking, anatomy and physiology, and just the body is an interesting thing. And it wasn't until I started volunteering at a hospital in college that I was, observing the different roles in the emergency department. And I noticed how hands-on the nurses were. They were the ones in the front line, basically taking care of the patients, one-on-one, hands-on, at the bedside, the whole time. And that inspired me to go on and be a nurse. And my experience as a nurse kind of inspired my wanting to become a provider, and which is why I went back to school to become a nurse practitioner.
Wow. Lots to unpack there. Let's start off at the start of the story. What was your first job coming out of college as a nurse?
So I started out in the pediatric ICU.
Oh, my goodness.
There are some opportunities at, major hospitals where you can specialize right out of school. And I was fortunate to be able to do that. It was extensive training, but at the end of it, I was equipped to care for these critically ill children. And I went on to specialize in ECMO, and I was a member of the pediatric transport team.
That's right, on the helicopter.
Oh, yeah.
That's super cool. Super cool. So how long have you been a nurse?
Almost 12 years.
Almost 12 years. Yes. So starting out, you kind of flew out of the gates doing pediatric ICU. What was that like? I mean, it's had to have been heart-wrenching at times. What kept you in?
I think just the fact that kiddos themselves, they're just resilient. I've seen some amazing things, obviously lots of loss, lots of challenges, but to see kids overcome their struggles and thrive, and their families as well. Being a pediatric provider is not just about the kids. It's taking care of their parents, their families as well. And it's really an honor. Yeah.
Sorry, that just reminded me of Jackson's accident. And I remember the nurses, they were so great, and it meant so much to us, like from beginning to end. And you're right. I mean, it's so much more than just pushing medication or making sure they're on top of their schedule or they're using the restroom or whatever it is. It really is it's a service for more than just a kid, and it makes such a big difference when you've got a good nurse. So you started out in pediatric ICU, and then now you're a nurse practitioner. Fill in some of the gaps there. Tell us about what you were doing.
So the beauty of nursing is if you want to change things up from, every now and then, you can try different specialties. And so I tried labor and delivery, which of course is a 180.
Yeah.
Of course, when I was there, it became very apparent pretty quickly how much I was meant for pediatrics. I always wanted to catch the babies and assess the babies. And so I quickly found myself back in pediatrics and worked as a nurse in pediatric hematology and oncology, which I fell in love with, of course. I took care of that patient population back in the PICU, and definitely one of my favorites to take care of. And
Oncology?
yes.
Pediatric oncology?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
It's hard to pinpoint. It's almost like I didn't choose it. It chose me. Like I am drawn to them. These kiddos and their families are just, their fervor for life. They're just, resilient, really. And it's really interesting, but also an opportunity to serve a population that, needs a lot of help.
Yeah, I was reading your post, and it said, did you know that only 4% of government funding for cancer research is for pediatric specific diseases? That's insane. That really is. And you're doing your part with St. Baldricks to kind of bring awareness to it and raise some money. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But you're leaving out a big, I know you because you're my cousin, but you went back to school while taking care of and being a mother of two. What was that like? That takes some resilience on your part.
It was difficult. I was working full time, and I have two young, busy boys.
Busy.
But it really takes a village, as they say. My husband and my parents helped tremendously.
Yeah.
I mean, there were weeks where I was gone 3 days working 12-hour shifts, sometimes night shifts, and then would spend 2 or 3 days in clinicals. And so we just maximized our time spent together, and it was a really difficult time, but it was worth it.
Yeah, of course. So you're risking a lot also. I mean, you're risking a lot to be able to do that. Is it, I'm sure it's a combination of providing for your family, but also getting kind of deeper into pediatric oncology, which is what you're into now, right?
Yes.
And it's kind of a slippery slope to get further for people like you and me to get further and further in. What's been that transition like? Because now are you specializing in pediatric oncology?
Yes. Specifically blood and cancer. So anything from like iron deficiency anemia to bleeding disorders, but
do they often go hand in hand?
Not necessarily, but in a day I can see variety of patients. But it's amazing how it all unfolded, because it's the same hospital that I've practiced at all this time. It's the hospital where I had surgery as a baby, where my kids have been cared for, and I started my career as a nurse, and now this opportunity to become a nurse practitioner, taking care of the same patients that I cared for as a nurse.
Yeah.
And
that's Kristin Santa Rosa, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that is okay. So. That's awesome. So going back to school, raising two kids, you get what degree was that? Or was that just to get the nurse practitioners?
It's a master's in science.
Gosh. Oh my goodness. So getting your master's was that specifically to do what you're doing now?
Yes.
Okay.
To become a pediatric primary care nurse practitioner. So that involves a lot of outpatient settings. So I'm in the clinic, and basically taking care of kiddos in the day-to-day, I guess. Not so much, in the ER or places like that. And
you just started your job like half a year ago. So, so not that long ago. What's that been like? Has it been what you expected it to be?
It's great. I almost sometimes, I don't know, it just feels so surreal, especially now going from working the 312s to a Monday through Friday, being there with my family in the mornings and evenings every day, like just that work-life balance, but then also the job and, being able to serve this population and use my clinical skills. There are certain procedures that I can perform and things like that. And I just find a lot of fulfillment there.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's not very often I ask somebody if they like their job and they light up the way you just did. That really is awesome. I mean, you really are living out your dream. Your dream never went wrong like mine did. I was supposed to be in the NBA and that stopped when I was 13. I stopped growing. So my dream went way wrong. But that's awesome to hear. So new job, you're at Kristin Santa Rosa. What's your title? Or what's like the job? It's pediatric oncology and blood.
Yes.
Okay. And how did you get tied into St. Baldricks?
So St. Baldricks is an organization that supports childhood cancer research. And that's through fundraising, but also raising awareness. I have, a few
Go ahead.
Things. So about 300,000 children are diagnosed with cancer each year. In the U.S., more children die of cancer than any other disease. And 99% of childhood cancer survivors have a chronic health problem because of the treatment they had as kids. So the goal through St. Baldricks and other, local charities like this is to fund research, not only to find medications and therapies that will cure the disease, but also minimize those long-term effects, because these kiddos, they have 70, 80 years ahead of them. We want them to live long, full lives. And hopefully, in 20 years or so, it's just a memory. Oh yeah, as a kid, I had cancer and now I'm living.
Yeah, it's fun. You don't think about that very often, in terms of like the actual treatments of cancer, how much of a toll they take, even on adults, even on, but I couldn't even imagine a child who doesn't know what's going on and has to deal with this. What sort of chronic illnesses do they have?
So, certain medications we know to monitor for, long-term can be hearing loss where they need hearing aids, sometimes, cardiac disease, and then sometimes even just like psychosocial, like going through something so, traumatic and early in life. Like we try our best to address those things, early on so that their mental health is cared for as well.
That would be, that like sticks out to me, but that also is why we need nurses like you who understand good and well what that responsibility is to make sure that, they are taking care of not just their body, but their spirit and their mind, and they stay present and they know. I mean, kids could be so mean. But I love to hear that you're there, and that was like your call to action. That was the hole that you wanted to fill per se. So let's get a little bit more into St. Baldricks. Do you have anything else that you wanted to read off?
Yeah. So St. Baldricks is an organization that serves specifically pediatric cancers. It's not, just one disease. These are, there's over a dozen types of childhood cancer and countless subtypes. And that requires specific research for those kiddos. Like something I learned early on as a pediatric provider and a nurse is that children are not just little adults. And so the treatments that work for adult cancers won't necessarily work the same way as kids. Kiddos haven't smoked for 50 years. They haven't sat in the sun without SPF every summer or been exposed to so many other environmental factors that can lead to cancer. And so, as strong and resilient as kids are, these cancers are strong as well. And so it's kind of finding that balance again, what is going to cure them, but also make sure that they can live a long life without, morbidity. So,
and all that takes money. All that I'm sure it gets expensive with all the research that's involved in it. And I guess the ultimate goal, if we could sum it up, is to develop in, the next, who knows, a couple years or 10 to 20, develop a treatment for cancer that is the juice is worth the squeeze, where it's not necessarily saving them just to keep them alive, with all of these other chronic side effects. That's incredible. And I'm sure it sounds expensive. It sounds really expensive. And And I guess that's why St. Baldricks exists. Question, a little bit of levity. Baldricks, is that a play on words for the shaving?
A little bit. Not a real person.
Okay, because I was going to say, interesting. So you're choosing to go bald. I'm just going bald because God said. That's interesting. I know that you had a story of a parent who was allowing you to tell it. Do you want to go ahead and share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hunter, I took care of when actually I was in the PICU. This was 11 years ago, and he was diagnosed with embryonal rhabdosarcoma, which embryonal, that's straight up pediatric right there.
Yeah.
It's from the womb. So his treatment we knew was going to be, tough. And his mother, Kristin, and I, we became close through his treatment. I want to say it was on Christmas that I helped shave his head. I cared for him from when he was a month old. Kristin found a lump near his throat and knew right away to take him to get care. And he fought for almost 2 years and unfortunately succumbed to his disease and passed away. And the beauty of his story, though, is that it's not over. Kristin and her family, his name lives on. Every year they donate Build-A-Bears or toys to the hospital.
Wow.
To, serve others. And what a beautiful, selfless thing to do.
You could be so jaded after an experience like that, but to stay around it, I think I'm so weak I wouldn't even want to be around it. But it's got to really weather you, dealing with that stress and that trauma and dealing with that her name was Kristin, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
To be a resource like that, after having lost her son Hunter, but to be a resource like that to other parents, because I'm sure she knows maybe she didn't have another parent who could come to her side when she was in the thick of it. Of course, she had y'all, but it's different coming from, there's solace in shared experience. And a lot of times that's huge, especially for something so traumatic. That really is beautiful. So Hunter and Kristin.
Yes.
Kristin, I don't know you, but what you're doing is amazing. And I'm sure Hunter is very, very proud of what you're doing. All right. So do you have anything else on there?
So I will say, it's not all, loss and suffering. Every day we see kiddos thrive and beat cancer and ring the bell.
Yeah.
And, it's nice to see what the dollar can do by donating to organizations like St. Baldricks. There are, new therapies like CAR T-cell and bone marrow transplant, of course, and a medication I've seen a lot lately, blinatumomab, biotherapies that help patients that are, higher risk actually defeat their cancers and live on. And so, we are seeing every day the difference the donations make.
Mm-hmm.
Even just the raising awareness. The National Cancer Institute has nearly doubled its investment in childhood cancer research in recent years, simply because we're advocating for awareness. And, of course, the funding is always needed. It's ongoing. And it's just nice to see that a lot of these things that we're implementing are saving kids' lives.
Paying off. Yeah. You get to see it. Like, you're on the front lines of you get to see the end product. You're the end user of some of this stuff. That really is incredible. And what a great foundation to be associated with and to be doing this event. So let's talk about the event. Let's talk about what it is that you're doing on March 9th, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
So registration begins at 10 a.m. It's at Alamo Beer Company downtown, and shaving will probably begin at 11 a.m. The event is specifically a shaving event. However, there are many ways to get involved. I am currently fundraising as a shavee, which means when I'm there, I will be shaving my head in solidarity for these kiddos. And, there will be music and a silent auction, live auction. Some of the items in the silent auction, some Spurs tickets, Whataburger swag, F45 gym passes, like things that, if you want to come and donate, you may walk out with some swag as well. So, we're looking for volunteers, hairstylists to help kind of clean us up afterwards. Because I'm having Crystal shave my head. And so,
oh, no way.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
No,
wow.
All of the participants, we typically have a patient that we've cared for shave our heads. And so there are, patients either in the fight or they've, won or in memory of one. These are honored kids that are going to be present at this event. And so it's in celebration of, just moving forward and fighting through this. And truly you can see, where your dollar is going and what a difference it's making.
Now, real quick, how can you sign up to volunteer? Is that on the website?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything can be found on the website. And if
We'll
you're
put a
not
link there.
able to make it, there are other ways to get involved. You don't have to shave your head. There are other fundraisers that you can be a part of to help fight the good fight.
Are you the only one shaving your head that day?
No, there's a lot of us.
Oh, okay.
There's a couple other physicians that I work with that are going from Christus Children's and then University Health System.
Oh, wow.
They have a children's oncology group there that there's a physician I know and a pharmacist, I believe, that are shaving their heads. And so, and then members from the community as well will show up. And
I remember you saying in the pre-podcast interview that it was like the one time where all of the pediatric oncology of San Antonio is kind of going to be in one spot. That's really cool. So you're getting your head shaved and we're going to support. I really look forward to it. And are going to be blasting out your link. So we'll have on YouTube, we'll have little cards on there. So we'll be able to, they'll be able to go directly from this video to donate to your page and to see other on the Kristin Allison St. Baldricks. Is there join me and donate is what I see. Is that how they can either volunteer or donate to yours?
Right.
Okay. And then it's going to go through to St. Baldricks, $5,000 goal, 1437. So we got a couple weeks to get that up. When this episode drops, hopefully that we'll see what that number looks like and we'll go from there. I know you had some final thoughts and I just very quickly want to say how proud I am to be your cousin. You've always been a mentor you're the oldest. I mean, you're the oldest cousin and you've led from the front the entire way. And I'm incredibly proud to support you and I'm incredibly proud to have you here. This is crazy. I know our moms are going to love this. Hi, Mom. Hi, Aunt Tina. But go ahead with your final thoughts.
So I just wanted to say, Dorian and I, our moms are sisters, and we recently lost our grandmother. And if I learned one thing from her, it was to love others well. She loved her family, and that love extended beyond her doorstep. I believe we're all called to serve others. You'll find humility and fulfillment by loving others. This starts at home with your family and friends. And just, I challenge you today to let that love extend to the community, whether it means showing up on March 9th in support of St. Baldricks, carrying food and water bottles in your car for the homeless, like our Nana would do, or through a podcast that brings a community of entrepreneurs together to inspire others to pursue their dreams. That's what it's all about.
Really is.
So.
Thank you so much for
Thanks
coming on.
so much for having me.
I love you, and I know you got to
Love
get back to work. We really look forward to you supporting you in this foundation, and I'm super excited for this episode to launch, and I'm super excited to support you on March 9th.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot.
All righty.